Hello and welcome to a new episode of The Career Changers. Today, our guest is Mark Delaney, coach and author of the One Step to Freedom book, a project that has roots in his own experience of feeling trapped outside of the life he wanted to live. Today, we will discuss his career change journey, how to find freedom, and how you can leave the habits you hate to live a life you love. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm glad to be on.
So let's start with your career. What was your dream job when you were a child?
As a little boy, the only thing I loved was sports, and the only class at school I was good at was math class. And so I thought I would be a basketball coach and a math teacher at a high school.
And how did it go? Did it happen at all?
Actually, it did. It's not really because I tried to make it happen. It's something I did at some point in my life, but not for a long time. Honestly, I think I was like a lot of people. We stumble into our careers more than we actually choose them.
Yeah, definitely. And so, what is your educational background? What did you decide to study?
I actually went to a college to study for ministry,
Mm,
and I did that for a number of years.
okay. And so, then how did you progress from that? What was your first job? How did you start your professional life?
I ended up being a part of a church and church ministry, and then I didn't think I was good at it. I liked it, but I didn't feel successful in it at all. And I ended up leaving and going back to teaching.
Mhm.
And so then I taught for a long time, and then another change happened eventually after that.
What led you to feel trapped in your previous career, and at what stage in your life did that happen before you decided to make some changes?
So I would say there's two separate times I felt trapped. One was when I was in church ministry. I liked it, but I was terrible at it. I just
Mhm.
wasn't good at it. And so that I was, it's hard to feel successful doing something you're not good at. So I was like trapped. I'm like, I'm doing this. I like it, but I'm not any good.
Why do you think you were not good at it?
I think the results were clear. Imagine doing a job and you're not doing it well. The results aren't good. That's what it was like for me. Like the results weren't good. It was pretty obvious. Looking back, I now understand it better. My bigger problem was that I wasn't letting people help me. I thought I was supposed to know what I was doing. I didn't let anyone help me.
Mm,
And it really wasn't that I wasn't good at what I was doing. I just didn't let people help me with the things I wasn't good at.
mm. And so then you were mentioning the second time in your life where you felt in the same way, where you felt
Yeah.
trouble.
So I was a teacher for 14 years, and that was a job I liked as well. But I just got to a time in life where I felt like I was just slowly dying, just
Mm,
inside of me. I felt like I had something more in me, and teaching was becoming boring. I was losing passion.
mm,
As a man, I'm not good at going through the motions and just existing. I need to have a sense of purpose in what I'm doing. I need to feel a passion in what I'm doing. So I'll tell you a story. About 2 years before I left teaching, I was on a field trip with students and we went to the zoo. And there was an enclosure at the zoo it was about the size of a big room, but it was just a big cage. And inside of this cage, there was a tree right in the middle that spread out and filled most of the cage.
mm,
And I didn't see anything though. And so I looked at the sign and it said there was some kind of eagle inside this cage. And I thought to myself, an eagle? Like, how can an eagle live in this cage? There's no space. There's
mm,
no room to fly. And I looked up on the branch and I saw an eagle. And when I saw that eagle, I was like, okay, the eagle is safe. The eagle gets fed food. And every now and then people look at the eagle and say, look, mom, it's an eagle. Isn't that cool?
Mm.
And I thought to myself, I feel like that eagle. I have a job, they're paying me money, and some people like me and think that I'm a good teacher. And I guess that was nice, but the question I had for the eagle was, what is it like to live your life and never use your wings? What would it be like to be an eagle and never spread those wings and do something with them? And I felt like that was me. I
Mm.
was living safe, but I wasn't really living. And one day I was reading a book. I wrestled for probably 2 years. Inside of me, I was wrestling with this. And finally, I read a book, and the first line of the book simply said, stop living as if the goal of life is to arrive at death safely.
Mm.
And I made a decision that day that I was going to leave the school after that school year. And so the next day I went to my school administrator and I said, this is my last year. I'm leaving. I had to get out of the cage I was in.
That's a very powerful story. And I guess that was your turning point moment when you decided to pursue something different.
Yeah.
Did you have anything clear already in your mind what you wanted to do, or you were just following the feelings and not knowing what
Mm.
was there next for you?
I knew the passion I had, but I didn't know the path it would be. I knew that I had to help people
Mm.
because I was a teacher for so many years. Everything I did in my life was about people. And I saw these same problems that pretty much everyone has in life, that pretty much every human has these same things they wrestle with. And as a teacher, I was involved with hundreds of students every year, hundreds of families every year. And so I've been studying human beings for my whole life. And these things that I felt like I could help people with, I had to help people with these things. And so that was when I left teaching, all I knew is I had to help people live the life they were made for.
And so, what inspired you to transition from your previous role into becoming a coach?
I had something in me that I knew could help people, and I would never be satisfied not sharing it. I don't even want to be a coach. I don't even call myself that. It's just hard. You have to call yourself something.
Yeah.
And so, coach, it fits what we do. I don't know if you're a fan of superhero movies, but there's a superhero Batman, and he has this butler named Alfred.
Mm.
And Alfred is close, helps him be Batman. Well, that's what I am. I'm not Batman, I'm Alfred.
I love it.
And so I love to be close enough to people to just support their life. And so helping people with things like their relationships, helping people with their purpose, helping people with their superpower uniform, if you will. And that's what I would call myself is an Alfred.
Mhm.
And it's very fun. I really enjoy it.
So you, at some point, wrote a book called One Step to Freedom. What was the inspiration behind the book, and how did your personal experiences shape the content and the message of the book?
When I was living in that cage, trapped, to cope with that, I ate food.
Mhm.
I had to. I was so frustrated with my life that I had to do something to cope with it. If you're an eagle inside of a cage, it's hard to be happy. And so food became the way that I kept myself at least a little happy
Mhm.
in a fake kind of way. And so living in that cage, I thought that eating was my problem. And so every day you wake up in that cage and it's, I got to lose weight today. I can't eat too much today. I can't eat cookies today. And the more you think that way, the hungrier you get.
Yeah.
The more you try to get yourself to stop misbehaving, the more your heart just gets dull and empty. And this major turning point happened in my life when I was sitting in that cage. I thought I had to lose weight and change my bad habits before I could leave the cage. But I realized something. I could not lose weight and I could not change my habits until I left the cage. I had to leave the cage first. There was no choice. So essentially, what I needed, I didn't need my habits to change. I didn't need my problems to be fixed. I needed to have freedom first. And after I had freedom from that cage of how I thought, then my habits changed. Then my problems changed. And so that's the premise of the book. And it was absolutely my story and everything that was happening in my real life. And it was what was happening in other people's lives as we were on this same journey together.
Mm. So this is your experience, and you talk in the book about finding freedom. But what does freedom mean to you in the context of a career or also in our personal lives?
I think everyone loves the topic of freedom. So many movies talk about freedom and we all love it. But can we actually have it in our life? I say yes. I say we must. And for me, freedom is every day I am being me. I'm being me every day. I'm not pretending. I never fake anything. I have my favorite shirt a man gave to me says free man. As big as my chest, it says free man. And if people ask me, what does that mean? It means this to me. For the rest of my life, I have nothing to hide, ever. Because hiding our life and hiding our problems, that's what kept me in the cage. Everyone has problems. Hiding them is what ruins us. So my free man shirt, it means I have nothing to hide ever. And it also means I have nothing to prove. Because a lot of people are trying to prove something with the jobs they have. But we don't have anything to prove to anybody. Nobody does.
Mm.
So since I no longer have anything to prove, every day I feel like I have something to give. And life is so much easier that way. I'm not trying to climb this big mountain to prove that I'm a good human. I just wake up and find ways to serve other people with whatever gifts and talents I have.
Mm. So you were talking earlier on about your struggle with food and how you overcome that just by finding freedom. And many people and people that are listening are probably struggling with habits that hold them back.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for breaking these habits and developing new positive ones? As I believe not everyone has the courage just to get out of their cage. What can someone do to start with their journey in finding freedom?
Stop trying to fix yourself. Stop trying to fix your bad habit. Stop trying to get perfect. Because the more that we focus on our problem, the bigger it gets. Instead, we need to have freedom for a purpose. Inside of that cage, I have a picture on the back of my book of a person inside of a prison cell with a big problem. When we have problems in our life, what we all do is we focus on them. The more that you focus on your problem, it's actually selfish. It's better for me to think about people. It's better for me to chase my purpose. And the more I chase my purpose, I will also have power to face my problem. Many people think I have to fix my problem before I have purpose. That never works. A person needs freedom for purpose and then work on your problem at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess the aim for everyone is to move towards a life that we love. How do
Yeah.
you define living a life that you love, but that everyone can love?
I think it's fascinating when we meet with people and the work that we do. We talk to people who have relationship problems, depression, addictions. We usually start with this question: what do you want from life? And what we find is most of us, life gets so busy and our life, everyone has problems. We forget what we wanted from life to begin with. We don't take time to pause and listen to our heart and be like, who was I made to be? And so I ask people, who do you know that's living the life they want to be living? Who do you know that's living the life they love? And most people say, I don't know anyone like that.
Mm.
And that breaks my heart
It is.
because we have this one life to live, and I think we can love it. And it doesn't have to look like any exact thing. There are many ways to live the life that we love. Yet, so many of us struggle to find a life we love. I'll say for me, there's only three things I want from life. I want purpose, and I want freedom, and I want love. That's the life I want to be living. I think for many of us, we have forgotten what our heart wants. And so, because we've forgotten what we want, we stop chasing it. I think if we take time and ask ourselves, what does my heart want from life? We want something, we all want something much deeper than a better house or a better car or more money. We all want something far deeper. Frankly, I think one of the reasons we struggle to find meaning in our work is because we have struggled to find meaning in ourself. Once we find meaning in ourself, it's much easier to then find meaning in our work.
Mm. And yeah, you mentioned before that you recommend to someone to think about someone that's living the life they would like, but many people can't come up with any answer about that. So, what are some other ideas, practical steps that anyone can take to start their journey towards living a more fulfilling career and life?
The question you ask, that is exactly what my wife and I do with people. That is everything you just asked is exactly, we build a program called the Purpose Mastermind. And it's a 2-month journey where we talk about purpose and the life we were made for and how to live it out. Because I think that when someone knows their purpose, it's a lot easier to then go charge into your life and live it boldly. But without knowing our purpose, it's easy to just drift around and not know what to do with ourselves.
Mm.
Wonder what we should do with ourselves. Am I working the right job? Am I living in the right house? If we know our purpose, it's a shortcut to go build our life.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes the things we do are just step after step that can take us in the right direction. But if we have a clear idea where we are going, then everything becomes manageable. What type of advice would you give to anyone or who is looking to live a life they love?
Mm. It's going to take some conversations, but I want to encourage anyone. It doesn't matter where your life is right now. It doesn't matter where it's been. It doesn't matter the mistakes that have happened. Everyone can build and live a life they love. Everyone can do it. I think what holds most people back is our fear. Because inside of that cage, we start to decorate the cage because it's scary to think about leaving it. So we just decorate it and hang pictures on it and call it home. And I think for many people, fear is the thing that holds us back from leaving our cage that we've made comfortable. Because outside of that cage, there's calling. Because inside of that cage, there's comfort. But outside of that cage, there's a calling, and our heart wants us to chase it. Our heart keeps tapping away, chase it. And I would tell anyone, if your heart keeps tapping away at you, listen to your heart, trust your heart. And nobody has to do what I did when one day I decided I'm leaving my job. But you don't have to do that. But you do have to follow your heart one step at a time. Because if you don't follow your heart, you'll have to do what I did and what many people do, which is eat food to numb your heart, or drink alcohol to numb your heart, or do online gaming to numb your heart. I would just encourage anyone to one step at a time, follow your heart.
So during your journey, you probably had to overcome lots of feeling of fear, of insecurity. How did you do that?
I do it every day. I realize it's a great question. I realize that fear and insecurity is part of being human. There's nothing wrong. Just here's a different superhero metaphor. If you think of Superman, Superman had this thing called kryptonite that represent his weakness. I think we all have kryptonite and it's there every day. But there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just a reality. I used to be embarrassed at myself for having weakness. Now I realize weakness is just normal. Everyone has weakness. And so every day you wake up, you go to your closet, and there's two things everyone sees. Up here on a hanger is our cape. It's our superhero cape. It's my calling. But down in the corner of the closet is a little box. It's got a lid on it, and it says kryptonite. And so every day when you look at these two things, you can either say, oh, I have kryptonite. I'm in trouble. Or you can say, here's my cape. I better put it on. Because the more that we put our cape on and focus on our purpose, we stay away from the kryptonite. So
Mm.
I'm no longer ashamed of having weakness. I'm just honest about it, and I put my focus on my purpose.
Mm. We're reaching the end of this episode, but we still have a few more questions. So, first of all, based on your experience, what type of advice would you give to someone that is looking to change their career, that is feeling unfulfilled at the moment?
Yeah. There again, when someone feels unfulfilled, that's the heart saying, I'm hungry. An unfulfilled heart is a hungry heart. You need to look around and see what you need to metaphorically eat.
Mhm.
It requires some conversations because some people need to find different work. Other people need to think different about the work they're already doing. Because oftentimes we make a mistake. Oftentimes we blame our job for personal problems. I tell people this all the time. Jobs do not give us our purpose. the truth is, we bring our purpose to our jobs.
Mhm.
So some people are living a life that feels meaningless, and they want to go over here and get a job. In that job, they walk in the door, the job floods them with meaning. Well, that's not really how life works. We first of all find meaning in who we are as a person, and then we take that sense of meaning and purpose and we take it to our work. In other words, jobs do not give me purpose. I give jobs purpose. Jobs don't make me matter. I make jobs matter. I think it's true for everybody.
That's so true. So really now we are at the end of this episode and we have the last question that we asked to all of our guests. If you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say to your younger self?
Stop waiting for permission.
Mm.
In our traditions, at holiday gatherings or big family gatherings, there's always a kids' table. You have the main table that's big, and all the adults sit at it. And then the kids' table, because there's not room for them at the big table, there's a little simple like card table, and all the little kids get around that table. And to me, metaphorically, that kids' table is where all the silly people are. You're just the kids. Go sit over there. Stay out of the way. I feel like for many years of my life, I lived like I belonged at the kids' table. I didn't belong doing serious things. I wasn't good enough. I wasn't smart enough. And so much of my life, I waited for people to give me permission to go fly and go live. And so I would tell my younger self to stop waiting for permission.
Thank you, Mark, so much for sharing your inspiring story today and valuable insight with our listeners. And also a message for everyone that is listening. Don't forget to check out Mark's book, One Step to Freedom, and start your journey towards a more fulfilling life. Until next time, thank you so much.